Don't resist.
That's the first line of Dune. Before we see Paul, before we see Arrakis, before anything. A whispered warning that these subconscious experiences reveal profound truths and prophetic warnings, warning the conscious mind. And after many of these dreams and visions, and nearly 6 hours of film later, Paul Atreides declares a holy war that, according to the visions, will kill billions across the galaxy. And a lot of people walked out of that theater cheering. Why is that? It's not that the audiences are stupid, it's that the films are genuinely breathtaking and beautiful. The desert shots, Hans Zimmer's score, which is definitely one of the best blockbuster scores of the last 20 years, every frame of these movies is designed to overwhelm you. And that's kind of the point. Because what Denis Villeneuve is doing across these two movies is something that I don't think any other blockbuster filmmaker has ever really pulled off. He's using every tool in the blockbuster toolkit, the spectacle, the score, the star, to make us fall for a messianic hero. And then he's quietly asking us to notice that we did. But here's the thing about Paul Atreides that makes him so hard to talk about. He's not a hero, but he's not a villain either. And that's what makes him one of the most interesting protagonists in modern blockbuster cinema. Dune doesn't really have heroes and villains. It has flawed people making fascinating, often terrible decisions inside of systems that are bigger than any of them. The Harkonnens are monsters, sure, but the good guys, House Atreides, are colonizers who showed up on Arrakis to extract its resources. The Fremen are freedom fighters, but they've been manipulated by generations by an outside religious order. And Paul? Paul is a young prince with real power, real trauma, real love for the Fremen, and real capacity for cruelty, all at once. This is something Frank Herbert figured out back in the 60s, and it's something Villeneuve understood when he set out to adapt the book. Herbert wrote Dune as a warning about charismatic leaders, about messianic politics, about what happens when a desperate people hand their future to a man they believe is chosen. The problem was, most readers missed it. They read Paul as a hero. They cheered the ending. Herbert spent the rest of his career trying to correct the record. Villeneuve and his co-writer John Spates have both been very open about this. Spates told The Hollywood Reporter that they approached Part 2 specifically with Herbert's own critique in mind. They saw the fact that readers had missed the warning as permission to sharpen it in the film. But here's where Villeneuve's approach gets genuinely clever. He doesn't fix Herbert's problem by making Paul obviously evil. He doesn't add voiceover explaining that Paul is the bad guy. He does the opposite. He creates the exact conditions that made readers fall for Paul in 1965. He uses modern blockbuster cinema to make us feel it. Because the only way to truly understand how messianic figures actually work, the only way to really get in your bones, is to fall for one yourself. Watch Paul in the early stretch of Part 1 and notice something strange. He doesn't really do anything. I mean that as a compliment to the filmmaking. Paul is a young prince with a lot of potential, maybe even a little arrogant, but he's passive in terms of the plot. He's not driving the story is driving him. His father moves the family to Arrakis. His mother trains him in the Bene Gesserit ways. The Harkonnens attack. His world collapses. So Paul is carried along by forces much larger than he is. And this is the first trick. Because the reluctant hero is the oldest, most reliable archetype in storytelling. From Luke Skywalker to Frodo Baggins, we're trained to root for the protagonist who didn't ask for any of this. Their reluctance is our permission. If he doesn't want power, he must be safe to give it to. Villeneuve is counting on this. He's counting on decades of conditioning from film, literature, and myth. And he picked exactly the right actor to exploit it. Think about the casting of Timothée Chalamet for 1 second. At the time, Chalamet was the soft boy of indie cinema. Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, willowy sensitive, the opposite of what you'd expect from a galactic warlord. He looks like a kid in over his head. And for the most of part 1, that's exactly how he plays Paul. Wide-eyed, frightened, uncertain. Now layer in Hans Zimmer's score. Villeneuve has said that he and Zimmer wanted the score to be spiritual, not religious, but sanctified. In his own words, "We agreed that the music would need to have a spirituality to it, a sanctified quality," explained Villeneuve, "something that would elevate the soul and have the effect that only sacred music can." And I believe that is firmly present in Hans' score. Every time Paul has a vision, every time he stares out into the desert, every time destiny seems to flicker in his eyes, the music tells you, this is holy, this is prophecy, this is real.
Somebody help me, please.
But there's a detail here that's very interesting. Zimmer built the score around female voices because, as he and Villeneuve put it, it's the women who drive the story and have the strength. Even when Paul is alone on screen, the voices of the Bene Gesserit who made him are in the room with him. The score is literally whispering, this young man is not the author of his own story.
They see the signs.
But we don't hear it that way. We hear awe, we hear destiny, we feel it in our chest. And that's before we even talk about the scale. Villeneuve shot Paul the way David Lean shot Lawrence of Arabia. A tiny figure in an infinite desert. Every composition argues for his significance. Cast, score, and scale. These are the three seductions, working on you in tandem. By the time Paul puts on his father's ring after his death, and we flash to that first vision of holy war, you're already primed. You're already on his side. Here's the thing most people miss on their first watch. There is no prophecy. The Lisan al-Gaib, the outworlder messiah the Fremen have been waiting for centuries, was invented. Planted centuries ago by the Bene Gesserit as a tool to manipulate Fremen society, to create a backdoor they could use if one of their bloodlines ever landed on Arrakis. Jessica says it herself. She's
preparing the way.
She's not fulfilling prophecy, she's executing propaganda. Very old, very effective propaganda, written by her own religious order for this exact moment. This is one of the most important things these films do, and it's something the audience often slides right past. Every religious experience Paul has on Arrakis is built on a lie. Not a lie about his abilities, he really does see the future, or at least potential ones, but a lie about what it means. There's no God choosing him. There is a political program being activated. And here's where Paul gets genuinely interesting, because his motivations are not simple. At this point in the story, the end of part 1, the start of part 2, Paul isn't trying to become a messiah. He's trying to survive. His house is destroyed, his father is dead, the Harkonnens are hunting him. He has visions of possible futures, but the films are very clear that these visions are not fixed. They're probabilities, potential branches. And in one of the most beautiful scenes in Part 1, he sees a vision of Jamis, the Fremen he's about to kill, as a friend. Jamis tells him that life
isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience.
That's the road not taken. That's the Paul who could have been. The Paul who moves with the desert instead of trying to command it. But his father is dead, and as he tells his mother at the start of Part 2, plain and unadorned,
Your father didn't believe in revenge.
Hell, I do.
that's the real engine. Not destiny, not prophecy, not even survival. Not anymore. Revenge. Which brings us to Chani, and to one of the most important changes Villeneuve made from the source material. In the book, Chani meets Paul, and she's basically all in from day one. She believes in him, she supports him, she's devoted. In the films, Chani is the moral compass of the saga so far. She's the voice of the non-believing Fremen, the northern Fremen, who see the Lisan al-Gaib story for exactly what it is, a manipulation.
This prophecy is how they enslave us, how they dominate.
A myth planted by outsiders to get Fremen to kneel. Chani says this out loud multiple times. It's not prophecy, it's propaganda. And here's the test Villeneuve is quietly running on every person in the audience. When Chani pushes back, when she scoffs at the Fremen who call Paul Mahdi, her reluctance to him drinking the water of life, when she refuses to bow, how do you feel? Be honest.
You did this to him. You did this to your own son.
A lot of first-time viewers might feel annoyed with Chani. Why is she being so difficult? Why can't she just get with the program? Can't she see he's doing what needs to be done? Villeneuve said it himself. Paul is the main character, but Chani is our moral compass. It's a big difference. That's where the movie differentiates itself from the book. In the book, she's a believer. She's in Paul's shadow. But I decided to transform our character in order to bring this idea that the movie will be a cautionary tale and not a celebration of his ascension. Here's what's genuinely tragic about Paul's arc in Part 2. For most of the film, he doesn't want to go south. He knows what happens if he does. He tells Gurney explicitly,
If I go south, all my visions lead to horror. Billions of corpses scattered across the galaxy, all dying because of me.
he has seen it, he knows it, he is actively trying to avoid it. Paul is not a villain plotting his ascension. He's a young man desperately trying to steer around a future he has already seen and does not want. But then the Harkonnens bomb the north. The Fremen retreat south. A war council is called. Paul has no plan and doesn't know what to do. And in that moment of desperation, he has the vision of Jamis. The same friend who once told him to go with the flow now tells him something different.
The good hunter always climbs the highest dune before his hunt. He needs to see.
That's why Paul drinks the water of life, not because he believes he's the Messiah, not because he wants to start a holy war, because he is out of options and he needs to see. And what he sees when he comes back, and this is crucial, is that in almost every possible future, their enemies win. The Atreides are erased, the Fremen are crushed, except for one.
There is a narrow way through.
Paul most likely doesn't actually believe he's the Messiah. He sees the religious structure the Bene Gesserit planted among the Fremen, and he decides to use it, cynically, strategically, because he sees no other way to win. That's the genius of Chalamet's performance in the final act. Watch his face. The soft boy from Part 1 is gone. His voice drops, his eyes go cold. He's not Paul Atreides anymore. He's the role, he's the function, he's whatever the narrow path required him to become, the Lisan al-Gaib. He's manipulating the Fremen. He's also probably legitimately in love with the Fremen. He's doing it for revenge. He's also doing it to survive. He believes he has no choice. He makes the choice anyway. He's not a hero, but he's not a villain. He's a person who saw prophecy that wasn't real, a future that was only one possibility, and made himself into the thing that everyone else needed him to be. Here's what's incredible about the filmmaking in the last act of Part 2. Villeneuve uses the same tools to show Paul's fall as he used to show Paul's rise. Same composer, same cinematographer, same actor, same visual language of sacred scale. That sanctified spiritual score Zimmer built around female voices, it's still there. If anything, it's louder, it's more insistent. Pushed to the point where awe starts to sound like something else. He's showing you that the emotion you felt when Paul rode his first sandworm and the emotion you feel when Paul declares holy war come from the same place. They come from the same music, the same framing, the same cinematic grammar. And then the film ends, not on Paul, but on Chani, the one person who refused the story, standing alone in the dunes. It's a devastating final shot. So what do we do with Paul Atreides? I think the answer is we sit with the fact that he's neither a hero nor a villain, that he's both seducer and seduced, that he's manipulating the Fremen and genuinely loves them, that he's cynically using a prophecy he knows is fake, while also being a person who really can see the future. He's an impossible character, and the films are honest enough to let him stay impossible. Frank Herbert spent his career trying to argue readers out of loving Paul, but it's hard to talk someone out of a myth they feel and connect with. What Villeneuve figured out is that the only way to break the spell is to cast it first, to let the music swell, let the desert open up, let Chalamet's reluctant eyes do their work, let you fall for it, really fall for it, and then ask gently, once the credits have rolled, what did you just feel, and why? These films are breathtaking. They are genuinely among the most beautiful blockbusters ever made. And I think that beauty is doing something important. It's not decoration, it's the whole argument. Because the real point of Dune, the thing Herbert spent his whole life trying to say, is that the machinery of awe is extraordinarily effective. Put the right man in the right light with the right music, and people will follow him anywhere. The films don't tell you that. They do it to you. And then they ask what you want to do about it. This video was made in collaboration with Tongle, a platform that connects brands and studios with a global community of over 160,000 filmmakers, writers, and animators across 175 countries. They've worked with Lego, NASA, Disney, Warner Brothers, and more, and they've paid out over $100 million to creators. Whether you're a brand looking for content or a creator looking for paid work, check them out at tongle.com.